Phoenix by Judith Verity, admired by His Majesty the King, although at the time he was still the prince.
The year is 2024. We are in Startley, in the chapel, with Grandma Hicks and Ace. She's 15. Grandma Hicks is not 15. And just behind here we have this masterpiece by Judith Verity herself, which used to be in the stairway of Rory's house number 7. And there's an interesting story about this.
So, can we start the story off with what on earth was Prince Charles doing visiting Rory?
Well, Rory is famous for being Rory. It was the time of year when Prince Charles does all good things like going to hospices and hospitals and talking kindly to people. And so in between, his good friend, he said, well, we go and visit Rory. He said, I've heard about this Rory. Because Prince Charles obviously very interested in building methods. And so he said, yes, well, let's do that. Why haven't I met him before? And so he came to tea.
And so you were there for when he came to tea?
Because I was there quite a lot with Rory in those days, yeah.
Okay.
Living part-time there and part-time here.
And how was it when he came through the door?
Well, the thing is, all his people, his retinue, and they're brilliant the way they do it. They came and primed us and said Prince Charles drinks Earl Grey tea and has honey in it. And so he just comes in the door with a chap and one of his people, and that person just stayed downstairs. And so he came in, and he and Rory started, yap, yap, yap. And they went up and down the stairs and in and out, looking at everything, looking at Rory's wonders. They just got on like a house on fire, Couldn't stop yapping. And then I said, well, look, it's high time we give you a cup of tea. He said, oh, lovely. He said, any old tea. I said, no! We've got Earl Grey in for you and you've got to have honey in it. So Rory and he were sitting upstairs in Rory's lovely sitting room, and which Rory used to call the front room. Mm-hmm. I love that word. And so I bought the tea in one of those David Garland cups, which doesn't have a saucer.
Okay. I haven't heard
those funny tissue ones. And poor Prince Charles, because these things don't have a saucers, you see, so he had his tea, which he didn't really want. And then he had the honey, and he's had quite a game sort of balancing the honey spoon and, I don't know.
And so the day he admired your picture...
Well, I think he stopped on the stairs and said, oh, that's nice, and walked on. but Rory likes making something of nothing.
Well, he did find your picture very nice. So that's something.
Well, it is quite lovely.
It is quite lovely.
And it was Polly who made the little sign saying it's the Phoenix by Judith Verity.
Yeah. Right.
Anyway, he was great. And then he invited us to his place.
Did he?
Yeah.
Did you end up going?
Yeah, we went.
Oh, well, that was the hedge laying day.
That was the hedge laying day. Well, it started off just being, do come, because he wanted to show Rory and me. I sort of dragged along, being the also-ran, to look at his garden, which had all been done by the Bannermans, who are these friends of ours who make amazing things with great bits of wood and things. Mm-hmm. Very interesting. And so we went. It was very cold weather, I think, because it was sort of snowy.
Was it in winter?
In winter. And so we had a nice time with him and just chatting so easily. And he and Rory enthusing. Rory said, all my life, all I really like to do is dry stone walling. Do you know what dry stone walling is?
Really?
Well, it's building without any mortar.
Water?
So, mortar, which is like cement.
Oh, okay.
And it takes great skill. And Prince Charles said, oh, my love in life is hedge laying. And he said, that's my relaxation from all my life. And so we said, oh, how lovely. Where do you do this hedge? Well, come on, shall I show you? And so he whistled for the Land Rover. And so we piled into his Range Rover thingy. And he drove us off across the country down a little lane to where he'd been, and showed us the hedge he'd been laying.
What did they look like? Because there's different. Isn't there different
What do you mean that there's different ways of laying all over the country?
Well, no, there's different. Had they just been planted? Had they just been like cut? And
I think the hedge probably had originally, or one of them had been recently planted.
Okay.
So the plants were just right for when they get cut and laid.
Okay. But so do you remember like the entire day?
Well, we were only there for a little while. I think we had some Madeira or something to drink.
Some what?
Madeira?
What's that?
Well, it's a sort of like sherry.
Like
Only
what we drink?
Yeah.
What? Sherry?
Sherry? Like sort of thing you drink before dinner. An aperitif.
Oh, like an apéro. Apéro.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. And then he drove us back, and off we went, rejoicing. It was lovely. Yeah.
So the garden, when you got there, where was that?
Oh, well, the garden is amazing with all these different bits done by the Bannermans.
Was it quite big?
Well, all sorts of little sort of bothies and all made quite quirkily out of sort of bits of wood.
Yeah.
You know, rustic, I think you call it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And so was there a house like near the garden?
Well, where's his house? Yeah.
Where? What house? Where did he live?
What's it called? Highgrove.
Highgrove.
Is that still part of like the royal family's sort of places?
Yes, the king and queen now live there still. When they're
Do they?
having a little out in the country. And they're not rushing around doing formal work, which is jolly hard work.
Oh.
So that was that, yes.
Phoenix by Judith Verity, admired by His Majesty the King, although at the time he was still the prince.
So we had these lovely little baskets full of these beautiful silks.
Mm-hmm.
And I was at art school and I was doing illustration, but I thought that was a useful thing to do. But on the other hand, I really love painting and things.
Mm-hmm.
So I thought, so instead of painting and where you need a studio and you've got paint all over the place,
Yeah.
I can sew these silks instead
Yeah.
of painting. So I did quite a few.
So how many have you done, do you think, of these?
Well, there's the horse downstairs.
Mm-hmm.
I did a swan coming out of the water.
Ooh,
I don't know who's got. I think Billy the Boon's got that.
that sounds nice.
And there was another one. A very early one was a mother and child in a rather. I think Chris Hobson has that. He thought he'd have it. He said, "I'll have it. I'll pay you 10 bob." And then when you're famous, I can sell it for hundreds of pounds. I don't think he's ever been able to sell it for hundreds of pounds.
They are quite impressive. I was wondering how you actually did them. How does it work?
I think they're on Hessian, sackcloth. Sack, things that sack's made of.
What's underneath?
Well, that's what I've used, Hessian,
Okay.
like sacks, which are just sewn into that.
And then you go in and out and in and out.
You go in and over and over and over and
To have like the thick.
yeah. So if you've
Okay.
got some red in there, you see, you do all the red bits and then. This is just
Did you draw it out on the Hessian first?
not much, I don't think.
So this is all sort of like just improvised.
Well, it's a bit
Quite impressive.
random piece.
No, but it's very nice.
Well, it was quite fun because it was a way of painting without the mess.
Yeah. How did you know what colours to put where and to choose and everything?
Well, you went by what the colours were, and like I say, in the subtle ones, like the horse, some of the colours that the silks had gone because they were rotting were lovely subtle greys and things.
There are many pieces of art that do not get admired by the king. So this is quite extraordinary.
I was left, if you want the story about these, I was left by the wonderful old cousin, and all other bits of family who used to do lots of sewing in those days. Great big bag. Well, they were lovely. I think they came from India or something. These beautiful baskets of woven.
This.
Full of these silks.
Okay.
Many of them were silks. And they were the ones that were rotting. And as they rotted, the colours became so beautiful. And so I'd use the rotted one. You do 2 stitches and then it would just break.
Oh.
That's not so much in this one. This one was because I'd use up all the subtle colours. And I was left with all these bright colours. And so, well, what's bright? Well, I'll make a phoenix.
Okay, that's good. Did you film that?
Yeah.
Oh, I was picking my nails.
That's good.